Do governments learn from past mistakes? Considering that the UK and the US really are trying for another intervention into another Middle Eastern country, this time it happens to be Syria, another area where ordinary citizens are victim of foreign terror. Certain political figures like the ex-French Foreign Minister Roland Domey admitted that leaders in his country had gone crazy. He was referring to the French-led NATO attack on Libya in 2011. But now in 2013, even though 90% of Britain's Labour Party are against intervening militarily in Syria, their former leader and ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair is supporting it. That's the same Prime Minister who told us all in March 2003 that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, thereby justifying a Western military intervention, which resulted in 1 million Iraqi deaths in total so far. Will such a controversial move happen all over again?
If we show weakness now, if we allow the plea for more time just to become an excuse for prevarication until the moment for action passes, then it will not only be Saddam that is repeating history. The menace, and not just from Saddam, will grow, the authority of the UN will be lost, and the conflict, when it comes, will be even more bloody.
We did, in the very final days before military action, receive some on CBW use, that it was disassembled, that he might not have the munitions to deliver it. April 2000, the picture was limited on chemical weapons. May 2001, the knowledge of WMD and ballistic missile programs was patchy. March 2002, the intelligence on Iraqi WMD and ballistic missiles is sporadic and patchy. The assessment of the 9th of September 2002, intelligence remains limited.
History is repeating itself, and the governments of Britain and the US are conspiring for a bogus pretense for intervening militarily in Syria with the same unfounded claims which led to the Iraq War. Like former British Prime Minister Tony Blair and former US President George W. Bush, David Cameron and Barack Obama are making every attempt to sell the allegation that the Syrian government has used chemical weapons against its own people.
The candid assessment from the Americans, it is consistent with what we've already said. There is credible evidence of multiple attacks using chemical weapons in Syria, including the use of the abhorrent agent sarin.
As for Iraq, where claims of existence of weapons of mass destruction emerged to be indefensible, scandalous lies, the British and US authorities are claiming that the Syrian army has used chemical weapons and thus crossed the so-called red line.
And I can tell the House today that there is a growing body of limited but persuasive information showing that the regime has used and continues to use chemical weapons, including sarin. And the room for doubt about this continues to diminish.
The scenarios being considered by both Britain and the US for invading Syria are very much similar to those used against Iraq to justify a war which killed almost 1 million people and displaced millions more. These include making every attempt to establish a no-fly zone over parts of Syria, which itself requires destruction of the targeted country's air force, surface-to-air missiles and other infrastructure, and seeking to open a so-called humanitarian corridor inside Syria to help people affected by the war.
Средства массовой информации, в частности, вот недавно в Wall Street Journal были утечки о том, что всерьез обсуждается создание бесполетной зоны в Сирии путем размещения батарей противовоздушных комплексов Patriot и самолетов F-16 в Иордании. Не надо быть большим экспертом, чтобы понять, что это будет все равно нарушение международного права. Мы очень надеемся, что наши американские коллеги все-таки будут все свои практические действия выстраивать под реализацию совместной российско-американской инициативы по СОЗову конференции.
Like the run-up to the Iraq War, Britain and allies employ media outlets to propagate meaningless terms such as non-lethal aid in a war setting. It's meaningless because so-called non-lethal aid directly assists in the business of killing innocent people. Having learned nothing from Iraq, the British and US media again regurgitate the facts as it is spoon-fed to them by their governments, no questions asked. This is wild that the role of the UN as a legal reference entity is wishfully being ignored as far as the usage of weapons of mass destruction is concerned. UN rights investigator Carla Del Ponte asserts that, according to the testimonies we have gathered, the Syrian rebels have used chemical weapons, making use of sarin gas.
We believe that the scale of use is sanctioned and ordered by the Assad regime. We haven't seen any credible reporting of chemical weapons use by the Syrian opposition.
The UN representative reiterates again that rebels have used chemical weapons, not the Syrian government.
علم الله يجزيك الخير. راح معه محمد صلاح أحمد صلاح محمد صلاح أحمد صلاح محمد صلاح أحمد صلاح ضربوا غاز منوه. تأمين شباب الكل حط كمامات. الشباب عندنا بدهم يضربوا غاز منوه. شباب الكل حط كمامات. بدنا نضرب غاز منوه على الكلاب بإذن الله تعالى. مع السلطان مع خلاص السلطان كله بيصلوا كمامات كله بيصلوا كمامات. ما عادش معي اللي بروح لي مشابه.
However, David Cameron and Barack Obama, who are seeking to regain lost popularity by invading a third country, like what their predecessors Tony Blair and George W. Bush did to Iraq, are ignoring the UN role because they have invested too much of their foreign policy credibility in Syria. Both Cameron and Obama have played as the backbone of terrorists in Syria. They have handpicked a group of rich Syrian exiles and molded them into their officially recognized government of Syria, while pressurizing other nations to also recognize these nobodies as the legitimate Syrian government. The British and US's Syria policy has turned an already fragile region into a smouldering tinderbox.
We've now had over a decade of military intervention by the West in the Arab region. It's now spreading into North Africa. That this is an error. You were told by your own security services 10 years ago that the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq would spread the influence of the terrorists, not diminish it. And that's been absolutely true. There was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq a decade ago, but there is now. There was no Al-Qaeda of the Arabian Peninsula, but there is now. There was no Al-Qaeda in Mali, but there is now. Surely it's time to draw the lesson that Western military intervention cannot be a solution to the problems of the region.
Having learned nothing from the catastrophes of Afghanistan, Iraq or Libya, it seems President Obama, the equally clueless UK Prime Minister Cameron, and his culturally challenged Foreign Secretary William Hague are cheerleading another bloodbath in a formerly peaceful, outward-looking Syria.
The Deputy Syrian Foreign Minister talked about with the chemical weapons issue is essentially could be a false flag pretext used by NATO in coordination and collaboration with the rebels in order to potentially attack an area of Syria using chemical weapons and blame it on the Syrian army. We would not be surprised if this happened, and there has been lots of cooperation and coordination between NATO and rebels.
We fear that there might be a conspiracy hatched by the US administration or powers in Western Europe to supply armed terrorist groups in Syria with such materials in order to accuse after that government of the Syrian Arab Republic in order to justify any aggression or any measure that could be taken locally or internationally in this regard.
Well, Her Majesty's 87th birthday was in April, but some issues surrounding her birthday honours list are unfolding. The honours are usually given to people who are recognised for their positive contribution to British society. So why would the Queen reward someone who supports what many see as the illegal state of Israel and also campaigns against boycotting the Israeli regime. In 2007, the UK's largest trade union, Unison, backed a total boycott of the Zionist regime over its continued occupation of Palestinian territories. The more the Israeli regime shows aggression, the more these individuals will be seen, especially outside the Israeli embassy in London. Here's the story. As part of her birthday honours list, the British Queen will recognise a professor of Ben-Gurion University for advocating academic partnership between countries and opposing the UK academic boycott of Israel. Professor David Newman, Dean of Humanities and Social Sciences at Ben-Gurion University of the Negev, will receive the award for his promotion of the academic partnership between Britain and Israel. He has been a leading advocate of the academic partnership between the countries and a key campaigner against the British academic boycott of Israel. Traditionally, royal honours are granted to deserving and high-achieving people from every section of the community, from school crossing officials and charity workers to leaders of the industry. The UK honours system rewards people for merit, service or bravery. An honour, decoration or medal is a public way of illustrating that the recipient has done something worthy of recognition. As the fountain of honour in the United Kingdom, the Queen has the sole right of conferring all titles of honour, including life peerages, knighthoods and gallantry awards. Honorary decorations and awards are occasionally granted to people from other countries that have made a significant contribution to relations between the United Kingdom and their own country. These awards are granted on the advice of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Recipients of honours receive their awards from the Queen or the Prince of Wales at a ceremony known as an investiture. The Royal Award to a key campaigner against the British academic boycott of Israel is in direct contrast with the majority of British academicians' attitudes against the Zionist regime. Proposals for an academic boycott of Israel have been inspired by the historic academic boycotts of South Africa, which were an attempt to pressure South Africa to end its policies of apartheid.
Israel is a state which we in Britain and our allies in America support financially and politically. They are implementing an apartheid against people in that country. They're making people stateless. They are contrary to the UN law. So it is a pretty unique situation, actually.
Poacher come with his poacher's gun out in the woods to shoot someone. My lord, your time has come right between the eyes. Felled his master not by chance, away with pomp and circumstance. Come join our merry dance.